My name is Sarah Zachariades. I'm 47, nearly 48 on Monday. I'm a mother of 3. They're all grown adults now and they do their own thing. I enjoy going to the gym. I like true crime, and yeah, that's me really. I just like the quiet, simple things in life, you know, going for a meal, cinema, a nice weekend spa or something like that. I'm not one for crowds and loads of noise, so I'm much more of an introvert. So yeah, it's only ever really been me and the children. But now that they're getting older, I'm sort of trying to branch out and do more things myself. Cerebral palsy's impacted my life, well, by the obvious. It affects my legs and I can't walk. I can weight bear, and transfer, onto a chair, onto a bed and things like that. But that's about it really. I don't really think about it, to be honest, because I was born with it, so I'm used to finding new ways of doing things. So I suppose it's impacted me in the sense that I suppose it makes things a bit more complicated, a bit more difficult, and you have to think things through. You can't be as spontaneous, and top shelves are a bugger. But yeah, I mean, it's getting a little bit harder as I'm getting older, but to me, it's just part of me, really. So I don't think about how it really impacts me much, apart from, the obvious, like, I can't walk, or, I don't focus on the things I can't do, because otherwise it would be too depressing. So you focus more on the things that you can do, and problem solve, and so in a way it keeps you busy. So yeah, you have to think about everything, the simple things, like you saw me get out of the car, how, that process, whereas if that was you'd just jump out in like 30 seconds, where it takes me a lot longer to do everything. I can't really think of any other way it's impacted me, really. I mean, I managed to get married, have children, so it's not impacted me in more ways than it has impacted me, if that makes sense. All of them need training, and they need to listen to the person, because the person knows their disability better than anyone. The other side of things, there are a few specialists, but they're not widely kind of known. I had to do all that research myself, and I think the worst thing is when you become an adult, that's it, you're kind of left. Because when you're in education and you're at school, they give you all the input, operations, physiotherapy, everything you need for your growth. But then as soon as you become an adult and leave education, they just leave you to it. And there is no more input. There's no more physio, unless you push, say, look, I need physio. And then usually you're sent to the hospital and they give you 6 weeks, one session a week for 6 weeks, like they do everybody. But we need that constant ongoing care, not just to when we're growing, but we need it throughout our lives. Me, for example, with CP, they say it's not progressive, which it isn't in one sense, but it is in another, because the less I use my muscles, the worse the spasms get and the worse the muscles get. So it does make me worse. Like, for example, I used to be able to put my own shoes and socks on, whereas now I can't do that because my legs just don't have the dexterity. But if I'd been told that I need to keep up with constant physio, constant horse riding, all that kind of thing through adulthood, then I'd still be the same as I was when I was younger. I'd be more able. But because they don't educate us and they don't provide us with that constant care, we kind of go downhill because of it. I've managed to find a inclusive gym that have special equipment to allow people with disabilities to use the gym just as much as able-bodied people, and it's run by proper physiotherapists and gym coaches and things like that. So, and they really know their stuff. They understand about neurological disorders, which mine is. So when I went there and I told them what my problems were, they really knew what needed to be done, and I have got a lot better since I first started. It's the only place and people that I've ever come across that actually really seem to know their stuff and really care. Access, it has definitely improved. I can't say it hasn't. From when I was younger, because I grew up in the 80s, so it was and 90s, and then I couldn't get on the underground. There were there were a lot of things I couldn't get on, buses. So and now that I can go on the underground. I still have to check which ones are accessible and which ones aren't, and then and plan everything out. So there is more accessibility and more choice, but in the grand scheme of things, you would think by now it would be a lot more than it actually is. But sadly, I think that's because we're just not thought of. When things are being built, I can't understand why they can't just, because if you put in a ramp or a lift, everyone can use it. It's inclusive for everyone, mothers with buggies, elderly people. So it's not like they're losing anything, So I just don't understand why the first steps, stairs. They should just not think in that way at all. But unless they're told that these are the regulations, they just don't think to do it. And another problem is when they do it, they don't actually involve people with because everyone with different disabilities have different needs, and able-bodied people that are sort of doing things for us, they're just kind of winging it. They're kind of guessing, oh yeah, they need a ramp there, they need a toilet there. But unless you're actually living it, you don't really know, that toilet, yeah, okay, you call it a disabled toilet, but for someone like me, the toilet might be too high, or the rails might be in the wrong place. It's like, even in my place, it's supposed to be wheelchair accessible, but there's so much about the house that is a nightmare for me to use. I can do the bare minimum, but because they don't think it through properly and get people that are disabled actually involved, it's never brilliant in the first place. And I don't think it ever will be until they finally, realise that they need to get disabled people involved. So it's a bit like acting in a way. They used to, years ago, they used to get an able-bodied person to act being disabled, but now they if they can, they get the disabled person to sort of play it out, and they should do that in all aspects where accessibility needs to be thought through. Inclusivity, I finally said it, means acceptance, really, and understanding. Like, for us to just be like accepted into just, we're just human, you know, like we're still classed as a disabled person. Oh, we have to think about that disabled person. You know, if they see us more as just part of everyday life, then so whatever they're doing, then maybe they might think we need to include everybody. You know, whether it's someone in a chair or an elderly person with, you know, a Zimmer frame. Yeah, they just need to start seeing everyone as just humans, and we should be able to live together, because it's society that separates us all. And like, I've always said that it's society that makes us more disabled than we actually are. So if they would stop, you know, separating us all, and think about us as humans like everybody else, then that's would be inclusivity. Yeah. The project you're doing is really good. I mean, there should be more of it. In some ways, I mean, you came up with the idea yourself. It's a shame it's not a universal thing. You know, like there should be so much more on the curriculum that isn't. If it was these kind of things on the curriculum already, it might help both able-bodied and, you know, disabled to be more comfortable. I mean, because I can understand, because a lot of people are uncomfortable with what they don't understand and what they've never been around. So if it was opened to them at an earlier age, and they see it and understand it, then when they come across, you know, someone like that, you know, it probably wouldn't be such a big shock kind of thing, because a lot of people just don't know what to say. Whereas for me personally, it doesn't bother me at all if somebody approaches me, and maybe because I'm old school, you know, I think that it's part of my responsibility to educate, because if I don't, then who will? But then you've got the other side of things where some other disabled people are like, you shouldn't ask, you shouldn't approach. But all this should be addressed in like projects that you're doing to showcase disabilities and show that you know, like I was saying in the last question, that we're all human. You know, we might be different shapes and sizes and do things differently, but at the end of the day, you know, we've all got, you know, a heart, and we all you know, feel and think the same way, you know, and when all of us are not getting out alive, are we? So we might as well just all kind of accept each other and get on, and, you know, be nice to one another. So, you know, never judge a book by its cover. Willing to learn. Just like I said, we're just human. Just because, like for me, for example, just because I sit down doesn't mean that I can't. I mean, you're sitting, and you know, you can do everything from sitting if you really had to. Just because someone's in a chair or looks different, it doesn't, you know, make them actually different. It's just your perception. Always be, you know, kind, and try and have a bit more empathy for people, because you never know what they're going through. And definitely don't make assumptions, because that's the worst. That's the worst thing. Everybody makes assumptions. Oh, that person can't do this because of this. That person's like this because of this. And 9 times out of 10, it's all wrong.